Welcome to Nugget 97 with Steve Groman. We are continuing our Nugget on Odessa Meteor Crater. And if you haven't watched Nugget 96, we want to encourage you to go back, watch Nugget 96, as this is part of the Odessa Meteor Crater. We visited the Odessa Meteor Crater just this last couple of weeks. The sign out front says, the Odessa Meteor Crater, second largest in the United States and sixth in the world, was formed some 20,000 years ago.
Okay, hold on. Wait a minute. See what I was saying? I did mention this on the last nugget. This says 20,000 years ago. Another sign at the same property says 50,000 years ago, and the brochure says 62,000 years ago. Obviously, they don't know. They believe these things.
They skip math class.
Yeah,
totally.
But we see this all the time. It's not just here. Anything that has to do with times in any location on this earth, where it's a geology type of feature, you'll see this kind of thing if you look for it.
When an iron meteorite believed to weigh
1,000 tons.
crashed into the earth southeast of this site.
Okay, well, wait a minute. The other sign at the same place said it was tons of meteorites. Remember, they said it was thousands, another sign said, of meteorites. Now, this one's saying a 1,000-ton meteorite. 1,000 tons of meteorite. But it says when an iron meteorite believed to weigh 1,000 tons. That's a single item. It's amazing.
Forming a cone-shaped crater, 500 feet wide and nearly 100 feet deep. Action of wind and water during subsequent centuries filled the cavity with silt, so that today its concave surface is only 5 to 6 feet below the level of the surrounding plain. It retains its original broad diameter surrounded by a low rock buttressed rim created when limestone formations were shattered and forced to surface by the burrowing mass. Sorry, that just sounds like a bedtime story.
And then it goes on talking about fragments of meteorite collected around the crater indicate that it was 90% iron with small amounts of cobalt, copper, carbon, phosphorus, sulfur, and chromium. Although the main mass has never been found. Okay, wait a second. They've never found this thing? Now,
it says it's believed to be embedded 170 feet below the surface.
Keep all these thoughts in mind, what this sign is saying.
The whole sign is just really interesting. I'll be kind. The last paragraph reads, meteors are believed to have been formed by the breaking up of a planet, similar in size and composition to the Earth. The body is thought to have been part of the solar system, perhaps the mythical planet between Mars and Jupiter, whose disruption must have created the asteroids.
There's several things.
Really,
this is all believed. They've never found this body. But also think about this. It's believed to be a planet similar to Earth, but yet they say rocks that are meteorite types of rocks, where they identify the meteorite, cannot be made on Earth. Well, why not? If it's a planet that's similar to Earth that broke up, that blew apart, that caused it in the first place. If it's similar to Earth, it's similar to Earth. There are rocks that are very high in iron content that are on this Earth and that have been formed on this Earth. Everything was done at the time of the flood. Everything was formed at the time of the flood. But once again, we go into this depiction where they come in at an angle, but yet the depressions, whether it's on the moon or whether it's on Earth, they're all craters. They're just, well, I say all, I mean like 99.999% of them. They're all just round. They're all perfectly round. Everything hit them at an absolute 90-degree angle, which is not what the depictions say, and it just defies logic. There's no way everything would be coming in at a 90-degree angle every time.
Continuing along the trail, we came across this sign that this said, Odessa Meteor Crater Trench, one of the many exploratory trenches dug from 1939 to 1941 when scientific investigation of the crater and surrounding area was being conducted. This exploratory work unearthed a fossilized tooth of a prehistoric elephant. Probably a pre-flood elephant,
well,
right?
Probably a pre-flood elephant. It all happened at the time of the flood is the point. Think about this. How can anything have survived a 1,000-ton meteorite slamming into the earth like they say it did? Or go with the other sign where it's thousands of these things are just rapid-fire pelting this area. There's nothing that could have not been destroyed in that process. But yet to find a fossilized tooth would make really good sense because there were animals around and it was all at the time of the flood.
Next sign, 165-foot shaft. This 8-foot by 12-foot shaft was dug by WPA labor in 1940 to 1941 under the supervision of the University of Texas in an attempt to find a large meteorite impact on the Earth's strata. No large meteorite has been found buried under the crater or the rim. rim. Now, the other thing said that it was supposed to be 170 feet below.
Right.
Then why did the shaft only go to 165?
I don't know. They almost made it, huh?
Wish we could have gotten in the visitor center.
Here's a picture of the covering of what's remaining of the shaft. It's a fascinating thing what they did, no question about it, trying to figure this thing out. But the problem is they're looking at it from an evolutionary mindset and perspective, obviously. They're going to get it wrong. There's just no way around it because the enormous amount of gas, the enormous amount of oil, the enormous amount of underground activity there, not to mention the fact of the flood, but all these pockets, that's what sinkholes are. That's what sinkholes form from, and volcanoes and all that kind of thing.
Continuing on the trail, rock flour, an extremely fine powdered rock formed in sandstone by the shock waves of meteorite impact. It has appearance and texture of talc, which is face powder. It occurs only in large meteor crater where each of the sand grains is shattered into microscopic particles. Tons of this rock flour remains in place beneath the crater at about 100 feet below the surface. Some was brought to the surface in digging the shaft.
Well, I'm glad it didn't damage all the fossils.
That one
pulverize the ground, but leave fossils intact. It makes no sense.
Next sign, upthrust rock strata. This massive limestone formation normally lies 22 feet below the level of the plain. The huge force of the meteorite impact lifted parts of it 50 feet above its original position, and in being lifted, was shoved laterally and folded back.
Well, in some of our sessions, I talk about this kind of thing where during the time of the flood, everything is underwater. Everything on Earth is underwater. The layers are being laid out. It's soft, it's wet, it's moldable, foldable, bendable. Then the mountains rose, the valleys sink down. This kind of turmoil hits the Earth, and we are the ones that have a mechanism to find folded rock that can be bent and twisted and folded and such. Evolutionists can't do that. You can't have rock and something slam into it and fold it back. It can crack and it's brittle, it's rock. But yet this thing formed at the time of the flood.
Well, I've said this for years when we've talked to people about creation versus evolution on specific things, that we have evidence and we have a mechanism that's based here on Earth. The flood,
Right.
The flood waters, the eruption of water and volcanic activity all coming up. But when they don't know what to do with something, they run to space.
Because there's no way to confirm it. Here's another sign that says this crater was formed by a small mass of meteorites hitting the Earth without sufficient speed to vaporize. So this sign says there was a bunch of meteorites that hit. And again, why is it only in this 500-foot region then? Why didn't it go 1,000 feet? Why didn't it go 1 mile? Why didn't it go 1.5 miles? Why didn't it cover the whole state of Texas? It just happens that just massive numbers of things and or something that took place was just rapid fire of these things in this little area. And it is, 500 feet is small, geologically speaking. To say that's the only thing that happened, it's impossible.
They found an estimated 6 tons of meteorites were found in the Earth under this crater. So they did find a bunch.
But again, what is a meteorite? Is it what they say it is? Or is it simply a rock, a strange, odd rock that is actually formed on Earth? Why would they be underneath this crater? They should be also scattered all about. They don't really know what these things are. They just assume they came from space, so that's why they call them that, and that's what they say they are.
All right, well, let's move on and let's make this one more nugget to finish off our trip to the Odessa Meteor Crater. Thank you. This is a listener-supported ministry.